I'll talk about Ruben FM. Ruben FM is a small radio station located in Mukuru kwa Ruben slums in Nairobi, and it was established in 2016. It covers a radius of about 50 kilometers and a population of about 700,000 people. Ruben FM is supported by a faith-based organization called Ruben Community Center, which is supported by two organizations in Australia. And so all its activities are supported by the organization in the two organizations in Australia. So when Ruben FM, you can move to the next slide, Fred. When Ruben FM was established, initially they were just working with the community, sharing faith-based stories and all that through the radio station. But at some point they realized that this was not viable, so they kept fumbling with the new ideas and so on and so forth. And the content was and is still relayed in Kiswahili. Let us go to the next slide, Fred. I've mentioned the FBO is funded by Planet Wheeler and Edmund Rice Foundation, as I've mentioned, and the station has had it very difficult to earn income from their different activities, campaigns, or ads as they were expecting. And at the moment, the station has 25 staff, but out of these, only 9 earn a salary. And this is because the others are interns and volunteers. You can go to the next slide. So in 2017, that is just a year after Ruben FM had operated, they realized that things were not going as they'd expected. Remember, I mentioned that when they started, they were sharing mostly faith-based stories and hoping that through it they would impact women and youth. But they realized that, first of all, the station had not adhered to most of media rules and regulations in Kenya. Secondly, the programming was not attracting many listeners as they'd expected. And then thirdly, some of the listeners could not access the program due to their choice of channel, because as I mentioned, it covers a radius of about 50 kilometers, but there were people who are interested in their programming who came from very far. And so based on the bandwidth, they couldn't access the programming. Let us go to the next one. And there was also no proper clear engagement with audiences. You know, as we all know, audiences always want to hear from the radio station directly. Apart from the programming that they're being offered, they probably want to engage and speak with the radio station from time to time. But this was lacking in Ruben FM at that time. Then lastly, the station did not make any income from advertising or any other services, as I've already mentioned earlier. Let's go to the next slide. So we will hold on to the thought of Ruben FM in the meantime. I want to introduce you to, I belong to an association, a group, a network of editors and journalists who represent small, medium, and large media houses in Kenya. And as we talk, as we engage constantly, they talk about different things that are happening in the profession of journalism. And some of them are bit to share here. And these include distribution and consumption of patterns of media have changed. You remember before, if you wanted to maybe get news or information on anything, it will come through the newspapers or through the television stations or through, mainstream media. But now you can get information from all over the place, from social media, and you will still be satisfied and happy. Secondly, trust in news media has eroded as other entities encroach on its agenda-setting role, which is, as I've mentioned before, given that there are so many distribution channels, people are able to get news. And I will give an example of how this probably might have affected me just recently. There's a story that I was very interested in. It's about the recent engagement between Kenya and the UK business transactions. So I was reading the story in a local Kenyan newspaper, and I've been following it from the start to now. But as I was reading the story, constantly, whenever I read the story, I feel like I don't have the content that I want to get from it. So I quickly Google searched and I got an economic blogger who put the story in the best way that I mean, he satisfied all the questions that I have. So this is likely to happen in our media if we get that alternatives are giving us more information than the mainstream media is giving us, then that trust is eroded. Related to that, also there's an influx of fake news, which I won't dwell on much more because my colleague, the speaker before me, has already spoken about it. Then our gatekeeping role has also been taken over. As I mentioned earlier, now you can access media through Twitter and Facebook and LinkedIn and all those other platforms. Then there are several policies and laws that we will hear about during our next speaker, talking about the run-in with government when media do not feel that the laws and policies that have been put in place are favorable. We also heard from the BEC team that there are certain laws that were put in place that were not favorable to them. Let us go to the next slide. Digitization, most of what I've described goes back to digitization, which has fragmented audiences. Before, you will be sure that your audiences were, accessing you through one channel, through one way. But now their attentions are divided into very many different sources of media. Please go back to Fred. And then there is commercial and political pressures, which you've already mentioned, which have taken over news media approach. And you find that media stations are now trying to please the political persons around them. They want not to say anything that will cause conflict or cause pain or to the station. And then competition, very many outlets have come up. In as much as there is no proper funding, they've come up and they are competing for the same money that is available. Then, of course, there's inflation and socioeconomic challenges which affect access to media, especially when you're talking about airtime and all that. Let us go to the next one. So we go back to what media viability is. Media viability is mentioned several times. I've interacted with it through UNESCO. I've also interacted with it mostly through DW Academy. And even when you look at the definition of media viability, you find that UNESCO uses the definition that was coined by DW Academy, which is the ability of media outlets and media landscapes to produce high quality journalism in a sustainable way. Now, when you talk about high quality journalism, what do we mean? We can hold that thought in the meantime. Sustainability in this case, often when people talk sustainability, we especially with media, we straight away go into income, profitability, and all that. But when you're talking about sustainability in this case, it is more than just the income that the media station earns. And so quality journalism and sustainability, as we will find out, affect each other. It's like a cycle. You have good journalism, you're able to sell it quickly, and when you sell it, you're able to get your station to continue, and the continuity means you're able to get also funds to support your activities. Next slide, please. Now, in order to know whether your station is viable, there are very many indicators, but I will confine myself to these 5 that were coined by DW Academy. That is the political environment, the environment in which you're operating. Are you comfortable with the laws that define your operations? Are you adhering to the ones that you ought to adhere to? Are they supporting you? There's also the economics. Is the station able to make money? Is it able to expand its activities to support whatever it needs to do? Then there is technology. You cannot, in today's media landscape, just confine yourself to one approach of disseminating your content. You have to diversify. You have to use different channels, different approaches, different gadgets in order to meet your audience. In fact, there is convergence where if you were previously just a newspaper producing entity, now you have to have short recorded videos on happenings that you share with the public, because there's some that only want to listen in. They are not very interested in reading, and vice versa. If you were previously just a radio or TV station, now you have to write something, write blogs and share them with your audiences. When you talk about community, these are your audiences. These are the people that are likely to consume your media. Are they with you? Do they like what you're sharing? Do they feel confident that you're giving them the right content that is helpful to them, that is building them? And that relates again to content. Your content, is it content that I listen to or I watch or I read and I am confident and I will come back for more? Let us go to the next. Yes. So what can be done now that we are seeing that most media are not viable? What can we do in order to be viable? So we'll go back to the case of Ruben FM because it presents an excellent case for us. Ruben FM acknowledged that it had a problem and it was open to change. And it only realized that it had a problem when it brought in a professional who audited its operations and its accounts and realized that things were not working so well for the station. And so the first step was to make sure that they were properly registered and they adhered to all the required media laws in Kenya. And then they started to do research in order to have informed programming. And when they did this, they came up with programs that are working for the community, for the youth and women, remember. And these are programming that are dealing with a lot of cases of drug abuse, or women who are overworked, they're single mothers, and they can't earn proper income, or they don't know how to take care of their health. So this helped them know what programming to give them. Then staff. In the case of Ruben FM, they had to increase the staff. However, remember we mentioned that they do not make income. So still relying on funding, they had to find ways of ensuring that they have staff that can support all the activities, but at the same time not get into debt. So what they did was to open doors for interns and volunteers. And so you'll find that Ruben FM, only 9 out of 25 are being paid. So the rest are actually volunteers who stay because they benefit from what they receive at the station. The station is also open, has allowed them to do consultancies wherever is available for as long as they're not taking business from the station. The final slide. The next slide, please. Oh yeah. Okay, so then because they were not able to engage with the population properly, they were able to invest on platforms and tools that enable them to engage. And one of the things that they did was to go social media way, where people could send short messages to the station. They also introduced call-in during programming. They also went into social media. They are available on Twitter, they're available on Facebook, and they're looking into opening other social media avenues. The other thing that they did, because the radius of 50 kilometers, as I mentioned, was some that were out of that radius, they've gone online. So Ruben FM is available online. So anyone who has the link to the station is able to access it from wherever they are and listen to the programs that they're interested in. Secondly, next they had new approaches to leadership. Remember, I mentioned that they got a professional who realized that the management of existing staff was not very good. And so this person came in and is able to help with management of finances, management of staff. And just to mention on this staff issue, while Ruben FM expanded its staff base, normally for sustainability, you'll find that a station might be having so many staff, and because they're not able to get proper income, they have to reduce the staff. So it can go either way. You are either going to increase, or you are going to reduce the staff for as long as you're not going into debt and you're able to sustain them. Then they've diversified the revenue streams. Now you will find Ruben FM engaging with the community, helping them to run campaigns, People use their studios to record music, to record whatever they need to record, and those are additional revenue streams. And then finally, they've converted their delivery approach. As I mentioned already, they're online. But one other thing that they're planning to do is to have very short leaflets that they can distribute so that people can know what stories are being carried or what is coming up and all that, so that they're aware and they can tune in and listen. Thank you. That would be it.